bing, bing. Here we are, and we're live. So it's the local support kicking of off, or off kicking or something. And I think it's been a couple of weeks. I mean, I think 2 weeks ago I managed to have a client meeting and get a few things approved and get some feedback, and there's some progress going. I mean, in other kickoffs we might be as potentially for tomorrow's website one, we might be bringing tickets and voting on tickets. I guess what we might do now is just have a little overview of where we are with the project. So we've actually got a fair amount of activity going on. I mean, other things being equal, it's coming up on 5 years working on this project. The last couple of months, I haven't, mainly the NHS Wiki project, or the last month particularly, I haven't been having the regular meetings with the client. We've, interestingly, showing the, just briefly showing this page to the NHS people, they were kind of like, oh yes, so we need that. How much does that cost? We need things like that. We've kind of done that pivot where it's now supposed to be more focused on the volunteer side, but we're kind of, well, at least I'm struggling with like various long-running pull requests. Yeah, the sort of backlog for me is we've got this new guy Rehan who's doing good stuff. Actually, I mean, maybe just he's been knocking off some sort of simple refactorings, which is lovely. I love it. And yeah, that looks good. That looks ready to go. So I think I will just merge that one. Like so, get that in. I guess the thing that I'm particularly struggling with myself at the moment is we've got quite a complex thing here with Maru, who is trying to get it set up so that we can post volunteer opt to do it via the API key. And that's like, I think he's been doing great work. There are just, and I brought this up with the client, I'm not sure that the do it interface sort of supports what we need. I don't know if Marie has just responded to me, but
what are we discussing now? Posted volunteer ops.
Yeah, and I'm questioning about. I'd been asking Maru about it, and I mean, I guess we're sort of at a point here, really, about to ask about the future direction of the project. In that, I'm taking it to the client. The client, has given us the direction to sort of focus it onto the volunteer side. We've made that change. She's expressed some enthusiasm for having the events thing in, and all this week. But the AV102 students have been coming in and been voting on those events. I think more for their benefit in terms of taking part in voting necessarily than from the project's point of view. I mean, we've got. I have to say, I'm sort of struggling to manage the pull requests at the moment. The big picture, we, and I say, Rachel and I guess are hypothesizing that if people could use this system as the one-stop place to create events and post them to multiple networks, then that would be reason for people to actually want to post their, volunteering events through this site and kind of come back to it. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I guess I'm I'm just worrying about where to next for local support, really.
So this is an attempt to get people to revisit it,
Yeah, I mean,
like to build a quote community.
Yeah, I mean, I think, if we go back to the original intention from Rachel, that I think that she was hoping to like map the sector, as in what organizations are in the area, and kind of give a presence to those who to really small organizations.
Well, it was like her to have a reason to email them, right?
To have a
like a reason to like contact them and stuff.
I don't. I think part of I mean the voluntary action Harrow is the client, and they're trying to support their sort of remit is support local voluntary groups, and so I think that the vision was, we want to make it easier for members of the public to find local voluntary groups near to them, and provide a mechanism for local voluntary groups to find each other and make their life easier. Go on.
Was this someone saying this? Like, so she had this, like, where did this idea come from? Obviously there was an idea that they were having trouble finding each other and they were having trouble marketing themselves to the public, making themselves known.
Yeah.
This idea didn't just come out of thin air, right?
No, I think it came out of Rachel's experience in the voluntary sector in Harrow.
So, like, those people that complained about that stuff.
Well, I don't know that. And this is the thing.
Nobody actually complained about it.
I don't know that people complain about it. I think it's more like Rachel, through support, the like voluntary action Harrow. Like, people will reach out to voluntary action Harrow to get stuff done for them. Like, particularly there's this thing called, it used to be called CRB, it's now called TPS. So, if a small group is going to work, say that they're helping kids or what have you, and they need to like do a background check on somebody, so they will get in touch with voluntary action Harrow. So naturally, voluntary action Harrow kind of encounters lots of different little groups. And so Rachel is, and her colleagues are meeting people from around the area, and and have some sort of understanding. And so Rachel has never put it in the terms of, oh, I know these voluntary groups who want to have a web presence, or I know these voluntary groups who this, that, and the other. I think she's kind of anticipating what would help them, if you know what I mean.
Well, that's potentially a problem.
Absolutely. Well, I think we encounter that across multiple projects. I mean, the retro blog that I just posted in an AV community talk, which talks about this group called Karamea, and so they like, they're doing work in Harrow, and they're supporting vulnerable people, victims of racism and so on, and they are using Do It, for example. They do post to Do It, like their need for a volunteer and so on, and so that blog post that was from about 3 months ago, Rachel and I went down to this group, and Rachel ran a training session showing them how to use Harrow Community Network, showing them how to use SurveyMonkey, and so on and so forth. And I mean, what I was sort of seeing in their needs is like they were having trouble logging into things because they didn't have any sort of centralized password management system, and so I was recommending that to them. In principle, for these guys, if they had a one, like all of these little charities need volunteers. So and people are using Do It to get volunteers. I mean, the volunteers are the lifeblood to an extent of these organizations, right? They definitely have that need. So, I mean, I think Rachel imagined that by creating a map of the sector, she was imagining that people might be able to keep their address details up to date and so on. I mean, there was basically an experiment to see, could we make something where people would come to the site and update their details? And realistically, that hasn't happened. I mean, Rachel put in quite a bit of effort for herself to like be inviting people into the system and so on. But for inviting 100 or so groups in the system, 1 or 2 would sign up. They might not come back. I mean, if you think about it, these people who are like, they're trying to help vulnerable people, they are not strongly incentivized to go and log into some other site just for the purpose of keeping their details up to date, right?
Right. I mean, so it's kind of a chicken and egg problem in that the site has no public audience. Like, there's nobody from the public coming to it. I don't think, or very few people.
I think people do occasionally discover it and they search for things in it, and we see that in the logs. But it's
not very.
Yeah, we don't have. There's nothing driving loads of traffic to it.
Like people aren't coming up to CRDBS and saying, "Oh, are you on Harrow Community Network? I found this guy down the street on Harrow Community." Like, nobody's hearing about that. Like, I don't think that's happening.
No.
So,
and if
people
it
aren't saying, it's like, people aren't saying, "Oh, I got to get on Harrow Community Network, and I got to keep that up to date," like how they say about like Facebook,
right?
Because like everybody's on Facebook, you know what I mean?
Sure, totally.
Nobody's saying that about Harrow Community Network, so.
No, and indeed, so I think through that experience, Rachel has said, okay, yeah, this is sort of, onto, that I think Rachel has realized, currently there are no incentives to keep it up to date.
Right. I mean, if you actually had a public audience, there might actually be incentives, is what I'm getting at.
Indeed. And I mean, but
people actually believed and actually heard that.
Right. But I think even then, I don't know that like having people keeping all of the details in there up to date is necessarily a fantastic goal. It's like kind of like if that existed, maybe that would be good. But like who ultimately is that serving? I mean, the people who've responded positively to this are other people who are involved with kind of dealing with the voluntary sector, and they're like, oh, it's really interesting to be able to see where all these people are. What Rachel became more interested in, again, which is what was about automatic updating and this process of, can we take the data that's coming in the charity commission and just keep it up to date, right? So that's one of the things that she'd like to see implemented in this kind of interesting thing. And there's the framework to do that. And I actually found another group there's a website, and the government is releasing these data dumps, and there's also Python scripts to kind of unpack those data dumps that we found. So that's something that would keep it up to date. I mean, I think at the moment the stuff's kind of going out of date. But so I think Rachel, in seeing that there is, that is then, we've done this pivot to volunteering, that, absolutely all of the charity voluntary groups in the area, they want volunteers. And so, the site could be a focus on volunteering. And so we're currently pulling in, so we currently pull in the Do It volunteers. And in some ways, there's now a value to go to the site that you can sort of quickly see a snapshot of the volunteering opportunities in Harrow, right? Although we get things like, I can see here, this top one's pulled in and it hasn't, something's happened to that. Sometimes the data coming in from Do It is not ideal.
So is it hard to go on Do It and find your?
Not hugely so. I mean, I don't think we're providing, a radical, fantastically different service from Do It, but Do It is national, and so if
Right, I understand that, but is it?
right.
Is what you're offering really?
No, I don't think so. It's certainly not. By itself, it's not. Like here, in principle, you can go to here and you can say, let's have, let's look for postcode, and we can see.
Right, like who doesn't know their postcode, right? I mean,
right. I mean, having done a few things, you can kind of go in and do this. I mean, you can also get a map view. It's not there up front. I think if you move around, there's a way to kind of go and get the map. But no. But so and by that by itself, that's certainly not like the fact that we have, we're a different skin to Do It. Hold on, is not enough. But so what Rachel is proposing, or the sort of thing that we're talking about as direction, is so that Do It's not the only organization that's listing volunteer things. There's other ones called Reach Skills, Team London, and so on. And so what we have actually got, I think Reach Skills, it's merged but not deployed. Yeah. So Zmago completed that. So potentially, if I get that up and running and out, we would have a map of all the volunteer opportunities in Harrow from multiple different networks that you couldn't see anywhere else. You'd have to go to Do It and Reach Skills and Team London to see all of these different things. And so it would basically be a mashup page here where you'd be getting it valid. Go on.
I noticed that I just searched for volunteering Harrow.
Yes.
And below the ads, the first top is the client site.
Yes.
And humorously enough, they're not even. It says, want to become a volunteer? If you want to volunteer, you can visit. And they list every other site in the world, but not us. Not our site.
Indeed. So, yeah, well, that's something we could bring up with them about, do you want to have us in there? But this is this list of things, they're thinking, can we pull in all of the different data from those different things?
So I guess if they're saying that if they got that all fixed and it was all working great, then they could just link.
Right, they
could just clear out those other links.
In principle, but I mean, I think it's not particularly coordinated, and the development process on the different elements have been slow. I mean, whether the so the things then become to pull in, it's like Reach Skills, the Team London, and so on. What's going on there? So there's a vision. I mean, whether this is, I mean, I think we're still not. I still haven't met somebody, or even heard of somebody who's saying, the problem I'm having is finding volunteering opportunities. It's all, kind of anticipating a potential need rather than any process where we've demonstrated an actual need. I mean, it's entirely possible that we could get it set up so that it would pull in all of these things, and that also that we had posting to multiple networks. And in principle, if we could get that all working and this, that, and the other, I don't think there's any guarantee that people would necessarily flock and start, to start using the site. But that's the idea. I mean,
people, even if you got it all working, you would still, even if we assume that there's a need for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
People would still need to be, you'd still need to market it, right? I mean, you wouldn't just, expect it to just, people to just find it.
No, absolutely. Well, I mean, the interesting thing there is, I mean, It's interesting because Voluntary Action Harrow itself is Voluntary Action Harrow itself is not a charity. It's a cooperative. If it was a charity, then it could get like $10,000 a month of Google AdWords and marketing and so on. But I mean, there's ways to market. I mean, the purpose of the site, it seems to me, has I would say, unlike website one, which I think it has the very explicit thing of trying to support the Agile Ventures community, the local support project has been a learning project, and it's also been a learning project for Rachel and her team. Although, yeah, I mean, I think the development has sort of slowed, or at least my ability to sort of review people's pull requests and deliver updates and changes.
So because they're a cooperative, does that affect their ability to get grants to fund the site?
It depends. Yeah. I mean, there are some people who only fund charities.
So has anyone talked about making Harrow Community Network itself be like a charity?
No.
Actually incorporate it and everything and make it its own little.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be possible in principle. It would probably require Rachel to want to make that happen. I'm not sure that. I mean, there's a fair amount of paperwork overhead involved in doing that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, where we are with local support is, I don't think we necessarily can expect it to be. Yeah, so this is now here. Yeah, so we have, in principle, got the stuff to be pulling stuff in from Reach Skills, although I can't see any yellow dots, which sort of implies that there aren't any coming in, or whether that's working or not. But I think I finally sorted out the issues with Zvango's pull request on this like a month ago, and I've been, but haven't been able to deploy it. Yeah. But I mean, I think that the we're not going to be making huge waves with this project. I mean, the greenest shoot from my point of view on this so far is the fact that how well the NHS people responded to it when I showed it to them, and I think that they're very interested in supporting microsites. So it's the kind of thing that having done it might lead on to another project. And it's where it. I mean, this is the funny thing, particularly this week, is we've been voting on these stories for people who. And it's difficult because if the emphasis was on delivering a kind of solid project, and kind of make the key thing is that you have the team, and the kind of the team's the consistent same team is involved in voting on the tickets, and over time everybody's sort of understanding of the system and kind of improving so that we kind of all come together on it. But we've got into the situation now, I don't know, that I don't know if something will be different this time, but in the previous AV102 courses and what have you, I mean, the whole idea partly of Agile Ventures is kind of getting people in and involving them in that Agile process. But people kind of, they dip in maybe just enough to get a flavor, and I think some of them get a bit of value from that, but they usually don't stay around long enough for the project to get too much value from them. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
I think there are exceptions to that rule, in as much as yourself, John, Marion, Thomas himself, Maruz, Mago have stayed around and sort of like the work that you did to get up to a certain level, turned into a lot of additional benefit for the project. And the difficulty that we have now is we've got this person here, Elena. She's really capable and she's doing good work, and I'm just at the moment overwhelmed and I don't know. I'm doing the premium mobs and things, which are kind of fun, and people are paying premium for. But it's that they are by themselves not moving forward the projects. They're kind of a completely, it's basically running kind of a separate mentoring, collaborative learning school, right? That's completely distinct from the bigger vision of Agile Ventures trying to help people learn by involving them in the Agile process, right?
Right. I mean, people probably, it's going to be hard to get people to stay for any length of time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, without some sort of much more structured way of doing it. I mean, in some ways, I'm on an idea for this third-part course where you say, right, for 6 weeks, I'm going to work on this particular project, and you're paying for that 6 weeks, and that, yeah. But even then,
I mean, even then, still.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, there's, I think.
The thing you have to realize is that the MOOCs, like, there's a huge part of those people that are just studying. They're like, I don't know. There's a lot of people that just are like, oh, I want to take 30 MOOCs this year.
Oh, sure.
And that becomes like an obsession, like to take.
Yeah.
So like they essentially spend all of their free time taking one course after another.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever deluded myself about that.
They don't necessarily dive very deep.
No, absolutely.
Any one course.
Yeah. It's just no. I mean, I think I've realized that a long time ago. I mean, the question is for Agile Ventures going forward, and this is, we're going to have this community meeting on Monday to talk about it. Is, can we still link the learning process with actually doing stuff for charities, or can we, can it work? I think, like potentially here for this thing, there is value for Rehan, or Elena, and Stella. If I was to give them sufficient feedback on their pull requests, and I think, the project can.
Well, the question.
Hold on a sec. But the biggest challenge here is none of Stella, Rehan, or Elena are putting any funds in, right? So it's difficult for me, like when there's money coming in from the NHS and the premium mod. Not that I'm taking any of that money at the moment. The time that I might spend supporting the learning going on in here is being taken elsewhere.
Right. I mean, the thing is that you're saying, can we support? What you're really asking is, can we spend most of the time helping people learn by doing things for charities?
Mm-hmm.
Like for real things, for real charities.
Right.
And get somebody to pay for it.
Yeah.
Now, that last part is the hard part, right?
Yeah.
To get somebody to pay for it, because, like, if you say, the thing is that if you say this, it's kind of a funny thing. Like,
right.
If you say to somebody, pay £10 a month and I'll help you, like, contribute to a charity, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll be like, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to pay you for me to work?
Yeah.
But they will pay to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of like fake work.
Right.
For nobody.
Yeah.
Except allegedly themselves.
Right.
Which ends up actually being kind of like of questionable value, right?
Indeed.
Even to themselves.
Indeed.
Because they haven't proven or built any skills to actually develop value for other people, which is kind of the point.
Right.
But people will pay for that because
Because
like
that's what everybody else is doing. It's an
right,
established system.
established.
Yeah, people think they're deriving value from it.
Correct. People believe they're deriving value, which is kind of why then they'll be like, oh, you know, you have to, you know,
Indeed, I do.
they're like, oh, you have to pay, you know, you have to go to school for so many years and pay so many thousands. And then after that, you have to still prove yourself.
Right.
Because
you haven't actually done anything in the school that would have generated value for anybody.
Right. You haven't actually proven yourself. So it's kind of a situation where you're going to have a lot of trouble getting somebody to pay money for that.
Yeah, it's weird.
And you're going to have trouble getting somebody to pay, to get the charity to pay, because they'll be like, why am I paying for people to learn?
Indeed.
Like, you can't just go to a charity. You can't just go to like some company or charity and be like, I'm going to have my cooperative of internet-based people that are learning build you something. But I think it's gonna be cheap. They're gonna be like, no, we're not gonna.
Well, I think we, you know, the interesting thing is the middle ground of, you know.
I mean,
listen. NHS gave us the contract on the basis of this, you know, the internet cooperative, but it's not an easy sell. My sense is that the larger charities, at the moment, they will tend to use, they'll be thinking, all right, if we need to have this website designed for us and sort it out, we will pay somebody to do that, and we'll pay a trusted company.
That's what Wikimedia said.
Yeah, exactly.
They wouldn't pay us at all. To do development because they already trust someone.
Right. Well, I think it's that there's, you know, there's a lot of different things in there.
I think it's the old thing that nobody gets fired for choosing IBM, right?
Right.
If it goes south, people will be like, "What? You hired a internet cooperative?"
Yeah. Well, I mean, then it's about building trust. I mean, I think that the interesting path is the way that we go with the NHS. But the thing is that you know, if there are more contracts there, there's an extent to which I'm not incentivized to involve, you know, learners, right? Like if the thing is, you know, these contracts need to be delivered on time, I'm not incentivized to, at the same time. I mean, the sweet spot is supposed, like we say, like no one's going to pay to learn, but we do have, you know, 40+ people paying premium fees and higher. And in some cases, I mean, the interesting thing is that I don't know if the mob thing is a distraction. I don't know. And maybe, you know, it's just one of those things. It's like the depth of the cave. You know, like maybe with enough external funding support, we could eventually get to the point where we had we had a nice enough environment and we had accumulated enough premium members working on it where you know, there was enough contracts coming in. But it's certainly not an easy sell. I mean, it's a big, anyway. I mean, I think I'm going to leave it there because there's a lot of other stuff to do, and the conversation can kind of be continued on Monday in that meeting. And there's, well, you know, I think to a certain extent it's about, you know, I've sort of pursued the idea, you know, as far as my personal finances will allow, and I've kind of got to switch to more paying work, which is either going to be, you know, NHS stuff or whatever else, potentially through Agile Ventures, but or other things, because I've kind of reached the end of the line with that. But I think, you know, it's great to see an AV community talk, other people being sort of excited about, yes, let's kind of like work out what's the thing to package, because it's partly a question of packaging, right? Of like, you know, what's the value here for people? And there's a sense in which, you know, some people that we've never met before and were never involved in 169, like Ryder and Avinash and so on, are, you know, putting their money down and getting involved in the community. and maybe something can be built on that. I'm not sure.
But there still hasn't been a lot of growth, right, in the premium memberships.
No, it's been very quiet for the. I mean, we've had
It's like a couple of upgrades or something, but
there's been a steady trickle of upgrades. Like I'd say, once every month, and then now, the last 2 weeks has suddenly been, a bit busier. I mean, it's seasonal. Who knows? I mean, I think, yeah, it does feel to me like the initial growth was based a lot on, initial just goodwill for all of the voluntary time that I'd put into the system. Who knows if it could, with the right this, that, and the other, double, triple in size over the course of the next year, or if it would just stay in the steady state for the next year. But I don't really have I don't have so many levers to pull now in order to sort of find out one way or the other. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, the interesting thing for the NHS thing is that the NHS thing, although they're a government organisation, the whole social prescribing thing that they want to do is trying to connect the NHS to the whole voluntary sector and to kind of push. They're talking about wanting to do some funding and so on. And as a result of doing this, like next week, I'm going out to meet lots of different people all over London in different roles, doctors and people who are doing stuff in the voluntary sector and so on. And there's an extent where, unlike nose to the grindstone on local support, and repeatedly talking to Rachel week in, week out, I haven't really been getting to know the needs or concerns of the voluntary groups in Harrow. Actually, through this NHS thing, I'm meeting a much wider variety of stakeholders and hearing more about what their needs are and what they're stuck on and so on. So I don't know, we'll see. If that can all, the question comes to me is then actually if I want to maintain a regular income, should I just take future NHS projects through my personal company? Like, what's the advantage of doing it through the charity and involving, the broader the group? Yeah, I mean, I certainly I like it being branded as the Agile Ventures thing. That's kind of good. I think they liked aspect of the Agile Ventures brand, but the NHS does lots of work with other individual companies. Anyway, yeah, well, interesting chat. I'm gonna go make some tea. Will you be around on Monday for the meeting? Cool.
Probably. Bye.
All right. I'll catch you later. I'll see you in the website one tomorrow, maybe.
Bye.
Bye for now.